Up until recently, it was alleged by the U.S. intelligence that Russia has been deploying additional troops near its borders to invade Ukraine. As a response to the latest escalations, Joe Biden, the U.S. the president, has warned Russian President Putin during the video conference. Joe Biden said that Russia would pay a terrible price if it were to invade Ukraine. The relations between Russia and Ukraine and NATO must be studied closely to understand the background of the issue. Relations between Russia and Ukraine. Russia and Ukraine are geographically adjacent nations and have had a lot of exchanges historically for a long time. Therefore, the relationship between the two countries is considered a sensitive issue for many others and has been a controversial topic. First, most Russians regard Ukraine and Russia as one country and one ethnicity. Therefore, Russians do not recognize Ukraine as an independent sovereign state and insist that Ukraine should become a part of Russia. Putin also agrees to this opinion, that Ukraine should one day become Russia. Such an opinion is also quite common in Ukraine. Most Russians regard Ukraine and Russia as one country and one ethnicity. Therefore, Russians do not recognize Ukraine as an independent sovereign state and insist that Ukraine should become a part of Russia. Such an opinion is also quite common in Ukraine. Most of the people living in the eastern side of Ukraine are Russian descendants, and more residents in the region consider themselves Russian than they consider themselves Ukrainian. On the other hand, many people also argue in Ukraine that Ukraine should gradually be away from Russia in the future and that it should become more a pro-Western state, such as Europe and the United States. They want Ukraine to be incorporated into the Western allies rather than into Russia, and they also wish to join the EU. According to a survey, 64% of Ukrainian citizens have supported the pro-Western and anti-Russian ideology. The current Ukrainian regime is also implementing pro-EU policies accordingly. Conflicts between Russia, the US, and NATO. NATO is short for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and refers to the military alliance of North American and European nations that was founded in 1949. The major members of the organization include the United States, Britain, Germany, the Netherlands, Norway, France, Spain, Italy, and Portugal. Since NATO is a collective security agency and system that protects each other's safety with the military, joining NATO means that the members of the organization will be under influence of the countries above, especially the power of the US military. NATO was created in the past during the Cold War to defend themselves from the communist regimes, and the communist states created the Warsaw Treaty Organization, led by the Soviet Union as a response. Although the Warsaw Treaty Organization and the Soviet Union have collapsed, Russia, who has claimed to inherit the Soviet Union's heritage, remains hostile to NATO. Therefore, in Russia's perspective, it would be an undesirable action for Ukraine to implement the pro-Western policies by strengthening military cooperation with NATO and urging it to join the EU. On the other side from the current tension between Ukraine and Russia, there lies the deeply rooted conflict between the US and Russia that goes a long way back.